Good evening, welcome to Mr. Wickins Reads, The Outlaw Varjak Paw by S.F. Said and Dave McKeen. Hello, my name is Mr. Wickins and I put on all my adverts about the last chapter that it was chapter 23. That was incorrect. It's chapter 23 tonight. And fortunately, I said at the start of the last video it's chapter 22, so hopefully you know where we are. But it is chapter 23 tonight. Here we go. Chapter 23, and it starts off with this beautiful image of a cat's face, and inside the cat's face you can see two other cats in there as well. Wow, beautiful artwork. Thank you, Dave. Chapter 23. Oh yeah, they're all going on, they're all setting off. They set off without further discussion, leaving old Buckley and the three cats behind. Varjak looked at Tam and Jess, Omar and Ozzy and the Scratch sisters as they walked. He had only 7 allies against the whole of Sally Bones's gang. It wasn't much, but he was glad to have them. They made their way in silence through the sewers, along the dark tunnels, and up to the point where Varjak, Ozzy and Jess had been before. That point of no return. He stood on the edge of the platform, looking down into the stream of sewage. He could hear it roaring past. He could smell it in all its stinking wetness. A series of steps led back into the churning brown froth. Here we go again, he said. He held his breath and padded down the steps into the sewage. He felt the slop up his paws, his legs, his belly. Ugh! Spat Militia Scratch behind him. This is disgusting! Revolting, said Militia. And dangerous, said Eliza. Why is the current so strong, Paw? She was right. The stream felt much swifter here than the entrance to the sewers, and the level was rising. The sound of the flow was getting louder, a rushing, crushing, whooshing sound that filled Varjak's ears and would have made his fur prickle if it hadn't been plastered down with slime. I don't like this, said Tam. I'm scared. It's all right, said Varjak, trying to give her courage. We can't be far from the river. It won't be long. He kept going, and they followed him. But there seemed to be no end to it. The level was rising all the time. The sewage was up around his neck, and it wasn't just sticky slop anymore. It was a hard, fast current that pressed against him like a force of nature. He was in deeper than ever, and it was all he could do to keep upright. Without warning, the ground below, beneath his paws, gave way. There was no ground anymore. He was in free fall, suspended in the stream, and the stream that was moving him along. He was out of control. He kicked with his back legs, trying to steer himself away from the tunnel walls, for if he hit them at this speed, it would knock him out. But even his strongest kick was nothing to the force of the flow. The tunnel curved round suddenly in a violent bend. Varjak felt his insides come loose. Watch out! He yelled, but his mouth filled with sewage the instant he opened it. The stream sloshed over his nose, his eyes, his ears. It was a torrent now, and Varjak was lost in it. He was at its mercy, him and all his friends. He heard Tam scream behind him, saw Ozzy, the strongest of them, swept up ahead of him, head over paws. The sewage turned him upside down. Varjak gulped a breath of air. He kicked and clawed, panic rising and rising. They hit another bend and were swept round a corner at terrifying speed. As he rounded it, Varjak saw an arc of light, curving, crescent-shaped above him like the moon. It was the mouth of the sewer, the exit, the end. He was flung through it with tremendous force, hurled bodily out of the sewers and finally into the river. The water felt as hard as concrete as he hit it. Stunned, gasping for breath, he kicked out with all his force, but the water was shallow. His paws touched down easily on the riverbed. He stood up. He was shaking all over. He was battered and bruised, but he was safe. Behind him, a torrent of sewage frothed into the river, shooting out a stream of soaking wet cats. Varjak saw them spat out, bewildered from the darkness into the daylight. He blinked. It was daytime. The light hurt his eyes. The winter wind whipped his face, but he grinned. They'd made it. This is it, he thought. I'm back in my city. He looked round. He wasn't far from the riverbank where he'd once fought Luger and the rest. High above he could see the railway bridge. Further down the river was the road bridge. On the opposite bank he could see those great glass towers reaching up into the sky. In among them, the smoke-dark tower of the graveyard, Sally Bones's place. One by one, Varjak and the others hauled themselves out of the river and onto the muddy bank. They were deep behind enemy lines. They were in Sally Bones' territory, and Sally Bones knew nothing of it. Varjak shook the water and sewage from his fur. It was freezing cold. His paws were numb. Snow lay thick on the ground. It was tight-packed, as if it had lain there for days and might never be warm enough to melt. He kept looking over to the other side of the river, to that single, solitary tower of darkness. It was as if it was beckoning to him, Sally Bones' place. I can't swim this river, said Tam, teeth chattering. I can't swim at all. She looked like a drowned rat. Let's go back. We're never going to make it. Well, I can't swim either, said Omar, but we don't have to. We'll cross the bridge. Which bridge? Said Eliza Scratch, shaking out great showers of liquid. We'll never make it over the road bridge. It'll be too heavily guarded. The railway bridge won't be, but only because no cat in their right mind tries to cross a railway bridge. Omar grinned and his eyes flashed. Who said we were in our right minds? We're going to Sally Bones' place. What's a little railway bridge compared to that? No one spoke for a moment. Then Varjak nodded. Good point, he said. Eliza Scratch glared at the twins. You've got more muscles than brains, Omar. You always were a troublemaker, never had any respect. Respect, said Omar, is something you have to earn. Is that a challenge? Eliza and her sisters unsheathed their deadly claws. The twins stuck out their big, strong chests. The two groups faced each other, neither backing down as the wind lashed the water, making it churn and seethe even more. What is wrong with you all? Said Varjak. We've got enough to worry about without fighting each other. Now come on. Neither group backed down, but they looked away from each other and followed him. The confrontation was over. For now. And that was the end of chapter 23. Chapter 24 tomorrow. They're going to cross the bridge. What's going to happen? So exciting. Brilliant. Excellent. I hope you are having a good week, a good half term, and having a break from school at home and Zoom school and anything else that you might have been doing. But I hope you're enjoying these stories as much as I am. I live for this, honestly. It's the highlight of my day. All right, everybody. Take care. God bless.